And hopefully I've got the volume on. All right, so welcome to Payroll Accounting. Lucky you, I've already taught this class once this morning, so you're getting the more polished version, hopefully. I shouldn't make promises like that. But I get to see where the mistakes are, and hopefully you guys get to benefit from me correcting those mistakes. So first off, so have you all been in your Canvas class? You've entered in there, you're familiar with it. I know there may be some of you who haven't used Canvas before, probably a lot of you have, but you'll get real familiar with it. The first thing I want to say is these links right here on the home page don't work. Okay, that's my fault. I didn't update them when I transferred everything over. So if you're trying to get to modules or the syllabus or something, use the menu over to the left. So if yours isn't showing up, you just open it up right there. So obviously you're seeing this, I guess I could show it to you as you see it. Hopefully. Stop. Okay, so this is what you see. No, it doesn't scroll. Be nice if it was. So first things first, a little bit about me. Not a whole lot about me, but so my name is Kelly Murphy. This is my 8th year as a full-time faculty at DMAC teaching accounting. I teach mainly tax-related classes. So I teach this class, Payroll Accounting. I also teach income tax accounting. So I think I may have one or two of you that are also in the income tax accounting class, which is the next class this afternoon. So I'll look forward to seeing you in there. If you're not in there this semester, I'll look forward to seeing you in there in a future semester. I also teach payroll certification review, which is another, obviously, payroll-centric class that is mainly focused on a particular payroll exam, the fundamental payroll certificate exam. So if that's something that you're interested in, we'll talk a little bit about that during class, not today, but in chapter 1. We'll talk a little bit about what's involved with that. So if that's something that may be in your future, that payroll certification class is something that you might look into. I also teach accounting professionalism, so which is just what it sounds like. It's a professionalism class that focuses on business etiquette, communication, ethics, all that kind of stuff, resume writing, interviewing, all of that. If you're in the specialist program, it's a class that you will be taking. And so I'll probably see you again at some point in the future. And then I also teach what's called VITA, Volunteer Income Tax Assistance class. So the VITA program is a program that the IRS runs, and it assists individuals one-on-one with preparation of their tax returns. So that is a class that obviously it's because you're assisting with tax returns, it's only offered in the spring semester, and we offer that through the urban campus. So that's one of the electives in the specialist program. I also teach that class. So if you're interested in income tax, hopefully I'll see you at some point in the future in the income tax accounting class and maybe in the VITA class as well. I am a CPA. I've been a CPA, since 2004, I think it is. So 21 years. I worked in mostly small CPA offices. When I say small, like 10 or fewer individuals. And I worked mainly in the field of tax. I did some financial accounting, some work for small businesses just with their QuickBooks and things like that. But mostly I would assist individuals and businesses with their income tax returns, as well as assisting in the payroll function at our CPA firm. I would also been a fraud examiner. I was a certified fraud examiner for many years. I did contract work with the federal government to perform fraud examinations, worked in conjunction with the FBI, the State Department, ATF, different federal agencies as well. I know a lot of students, in my experience, their ears perk up when they hear about fraud examination. They think that it's something that might interest them in the future. Happy to chat with you about that if it's something that you might be interested in. Went to, let's see, I got my undergraduate degree at Central College in Pella. I'm originally from Des Moines, graduated from Roosevelt. Don't know if there are any Roosevelt grads in here, but and then went to Central College, got my master's degree at the University of Arizona, a master's degree in accounting. Actually didn't get into accounting until I was 30 years old. So my original undergraduate degree was in Latin American Studies, the minor in Spanish. So I just wanted to get paid to travel. Which I actually did. That was my first job out of college. Had nothing to do with Latin America, but I went over to Japan and I taught English for a year. So just have always loved to travel, and that was an interest of mine. But then, you know, bills have to be paid, and accounting is a great way to do that. So decided to become a little bit more practical and went into the accounting field. And here I am. So that's kind of enough about me. Let's talk a bit about the class. So my office hours, my home base is at Urban Campus in Des Moines, but in the fall semester, I don't teach at Urban Campus, so I just hold my office hours here on Ankeny campus since all my in-person classes are here. So my office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:40 to 9:40 a.m., so immediately before my first class, which is in this room. So if you need to come in for office hours during that time, you'll find me. Hopefully, actually, I'll just set up shop in here because it's easier if I can just do that. So in here, or there's a faculty office that they've just set up. I think it's room 14 down the hall, right? It's not in the accounting faculty office, but it's right next to it. So I'll be either here or there. And then from 2:45 until 4:15 in the afternoon also. My office hours are both in person and virtual. So if you, like that morning, you want to meet me for office hours, but you don't happen to be on campus, or in the afternoon, whichever, there is a link here where you could get into the virtual office hours. It's just right through Canvas. If you want to schedule an appointment, and this is another error that I discovered that I have to fix, you can set up an appointment. Now, for some reason, it's not linking to my appointments. I don't know why. There actually are appointments available on those Tuesdays and Thursdays, but right now it's showing that there aren't, so I have to fix that. But there is a link. So that's just if, like, say you've got to go to work say you want to meet me in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, you've got to go to work at 3:15, so in case somebody's, some other student is already in there, you can set an appointment. Say, okay, I need to meet with you at 3 o'clock because I got to get out of here. So it just guarantees you that time slot. Okay, you don't have to make an appointment, not a requirement, but if you want to make an appointment, you can. Okay, and I'll get that fixed. I don't know why that's, because I set them up, but for some reason, they're not in there. Okay, so one thing you guys are going to want to do is okay, I can't do that in there. And maybe you've already done this. Make sure you get notifications. So when I send out, because I do use the announcements quite frequently, and if you aren't set up for notifications, you'll get notified when you log into Canvas, but you won't get notified, right? You won't know to log into Canvas that there's an announcement. So go into you click on the account and go into notifications, and you can click on whatever it is that you want to be notified about. So we don't have a discussion board in here, so it doesn't, I think discussion board was one of the things up there. Announcements. So make sure that at a minimum, this is clicked. You may want to make sure that the due date stuff is as well. You can enter in your your cell phone information in there and get push notifications as well. So on your cell phone, they'll pop up. Can kind of be annoying, but can also be helpful. So make sure that you go in there and click on everything you want to be notified about, but especially the announcements. Because if by chance, like if class is canceled, there's an ice storm, I doubt it. The fall semester is usually not too bad for weather, but if something comes up and class is going to be canceled, that's where I'm going to put it, is on announcements. So you don't want to be hustling into campus and then find out, oh, she sent out an announcement, I didn't have to come in. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. Let's take a look at the syllabus. Hopefully you've had a chance to kind of open this up and look at it. I'm not going to go through this in detail. Obviously, you know where the class is. You're in the right place. I know it's a little difficult to find maybe the first time, but now you know where it is. So all the course competencies are listed there, as well as our essential learning outcomes for the department. The things that I want to focus on here. So we're talking about payroll, which involves a lot of talk about laws, tax laws, payroll-related laws, human resources-related laws. And I will tell you right up front, the first chapter is super boring. Don't let that stop you. But it's kind of dry because we do the overview stuff and we do talk a lot about the different laws that are in place that protect employees. But and there's no math in the first chapter. Sorry, I know you're here for the math. You're all accountants. You like the math. First chapter, bear with me, there's no math. But we'll cover that, take a look, get that kind of that background taken care of. And then we'll move on to some calculations. Calculations of how to calculate employee payroll, which seems like it would be an easy enough thing to do, right? Number of hours worked times the rate that they're paid. Not always that easy, though. Lots of nuances to it. Well, what happens if they work overtime? Well, what counts as actual hours worked? Like, is the time that they change clothes, employees change clothes, is that included in time that they're paid for? All that kind of stuff. So we're going to go through a lot of those nuances. Then we're going to move on to talking about taxes. So my passion, taxes. Taxes are ever changing. Taxes every single year. I'm probably the only, well, maybe I'm not the only professor at the college, but I'm certainly one of the few professors that has the privilege of having to get a totally different textbook every single year because the taxes change. Sometimes they change a lot. Sometimes they change a little. By a little, I would mean maybe tax rates are indexed for inflation, or tax brackets change, how much income is being taxed changes, or sometimes the whole darn thing changes. We happen to be in a year where the whole darn thing is changing. They just passed this one big beautiful bill, maybe some of you have heard of it, that had a lot of major tax changes attached to it. Now, lucky for us, those tax changes happened in the middle of the year. Our textbook was already published 8 months ago. So those changes are not part of our textbook. But most of the major changes are going to take place starting in 2026. So luckily we don't have a bunch of changes from previous years that we're going to be looking at least in this year. But just as a heads up, that, if this is a field that you're interested in working in, anticipate that stuff changes. It changes all the time. It changes whenever those tax laws change. This is the textbook that we're using. You do not have to get the paper textbook, right? I always ask the publisher, send me one because I'm old and I like paper. But this is what the textbook looks like. So all of you will get access. You'll have to purchase it. You have to purchase access to the publisher's website. So the publisher is Cengage, and we'll spend some time today trying to get you guys set up with that. That's actually what we spent most of our time with in the last period, was trying to get everybody set up. But you have access to the ebook through when you purchase your Cengage subscription. So you'll have a choice of subscribing for 4 months or for 12 months. Now, why on earth would you want to subscribe for 12 months? You're not going to take this class again. You're going to ace this class and you're never going to have to take it again. Well, Cengage, what they offer is unlimited access to all of their textbooks through that. So if you think you're going to take a class next semester, or even you have another class this semester, you could get the unlimited 12-month, and then everything's included. You've paid for it for the whole year. Obviously, the 12-month access is more expensive than the 4-month. Most students just choose the 4-month access, but that is something that's available to you. And I'll show you how you're going to access this as well through Canvas. Okay, I just wanted to show you what it looks like, and also make sure when you're purchasing you get the 2025 edition. Okay, so don't get, like, if you're going through some random website to save $10 on it, make sure it's the right edition. Okay, but the bookstore here has the right edition. Textbook Outlet has the right edition. Don't get any other edition, because then you won't have access to the right assignments if you get a different year. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, withholding laws, we go through a bunch of state and federal forms, how to fill those out, what the due dates are for those, different types of salary deductions, so if employees have benefits, how that is all calculated. And then the very last part of this class is a capstone project where you're going to work on through, I mean, it's not a real software program. It's not like QuickBooks or anything like that, but it's something through Cengage that mimics a payroll software program. So you're going to prepare payroll for a 3-month period for a company. And that's going to be your final project in the class that's due on the last day of class. So that will be the very last thing that you do. Let's see. Make sure you attend class. That's the best thing that you can do to try and stay current with the information, to keep on track. Plus, it just makes it a lot more fun if everybody's here. You know, if the population starts to dwindle, it gets a little bit boring. So make sure you attend regularly. There are points for attendance as well. Read the announcements. Stay on schedule. Each of the chapters builds on the previous chapter. So if you didn't get a concept, if you don't know how to properly calculate gross payroll, which is what we cover in chapter 2, you're not going to be able to properly calculate income tax withholding. How much income tax can be withheld, which is in chapter 4. So my point with that is, you've got to understand the concepts of each chapter and have a good solid understanding of it in order to really proceed to the next chapter. So in order to do that, you need to stay on schedule. Don't get behind on any of that, and do all of the assignments. Ask questions. That's what I'm here for. Let's see. I already talked about that. Let's see. Okay, so grading criteria. So these are the points for the class. I'm sorry if this is kind of small, isn't it? It's a little bit better. All right, so for each chapter, we have kind of 2 parts. We have assignments, homework assignments, and then you have an assessment as well. The assessment is like a test. But you can use all of your resources. You do it at home. You don't do it in class. It is timed. You've got 2 hours to finish it. Most students don't have any problem getting these done within the 2-hour time frame. But each chapter does have an assessment. which is worth 50 points. And then we have, they're worth 50 points each. And then we have homework, which I think is worth 60 points. For most chapters is worth 60 points each. The homework is where you're going to do the bulk of your work. We start out slow, a little bit easy. The first chapter, introductory stuff in first chapter isn't too much. You're going to get to the second chapter and be like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of work here. So again, that's where you want to make sure that you are organized and stay on schedule. You don't want to leave stuff until the last minute and procrastinate. We do have a midterm exam, which is October 9th. It is in class. It is not open book, but I allow you to use 1 page of notes with the midterm. And it's notes front and back. So that's worth 125 points. That final project that I was talking about, that's worth 125 points. We do have a final exam as well. It's kind of a mini exam. It's not too stressful. It's only 50 points. Reason being, you've got that final project, and that's where you're going to be spending the bulk of your time toward the end of the semester. So, and then attendance, again, you get attendance for each class attendance. The attendance, I do want to make you aware. So in Canvas, like I keep attendance. In Canvas, I think what it does, it may be showing you have like 45 points now, like as though you've attended all of the classes. I think what it does is then if you miss a class, it reduces what your total is. I believe. It's kind of weird how it does the calculation of attendance. It's not like it gives you a certain number of points for every time you attend. I think it starts out at the max and then starts to reduce. So anyway, for final grading, I do use minuses and pluses. So you've got that kind of traditional cutoffs for the grading there. Something else I wanted to say about the grading. I can't remember what it was. So that's our grade. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. So I don't weight the assignments. So a point is a point is a point. So you want to make sure your goal, like I said to the last class, your goal is to understand the material and to master the material. But I also know that your goal is to get as many points as possible, because you want to get as good a grade as possible, because that affects your grade point average, and going forward, that's what will count, especially if you're going to transfer or something like that. So a point is a point is a point. I offer extra credit points as well. So if you had you just completely screwed up those assignments in chapter 2 and you need some extra points, you've got an opportunity with some extra credit points as well. Okay. And it's not like I said, like the project isn't weighted any heavier than any other points in the class. Does that make sense? Okay. Missed exams, this usually isn't too much of a problem, but if you have an emergency, let me know before the midterm or before the final. If you just don't show up, you're going to get a 0. But if something has happened, email me and then we'll make arrangements for you to make up the exam. But if you just don't show up, I mean, unless it's something horrific like you got into a car accident and you couldn't contact me, that would be a different story. But that would just be if it's, vacation is not considered an emergency. So make sure you've got October 9th blocked off for your midterm exam. What else? Late assignments. So I do accept late assignments. I probably shouldn't. I've thought about stopping this because it does cause problems, but I'm just too generous. So late assignments are reduced by 25%. So if you got 100% on it, you're going to get 75% on it, even if it was 1 minute late, because it's the computer that assesses whether it's late or not. Most of the due times are 11:55 p.m. with Cengage. So budget your time appropriately. Like if it's going to take you 2 hours to do an assignment, don't start it an hour before it's due because it's going to be late. Make sure that you're starting it well before. And ideally, not even that day, you're already working on it throughout the couple of weeks that you have to get those assignments done. Assessments are docked 50%. So super important that you get those in by the due time. Most of our assignments are due Thursday nights by that 11:55 p.m. I already talked about extra credit. Okay, so AI. Y'all have heard of AI. ChatGPT, Grok, that sort of thing. Super helpful. I use it all the time. I ask it questions all the time. I don't mind you using it to assist in your understanding of concepts. Do not use it to answer questions, obviously, because you're here to learn. If you just use the AI to answer your questions, then what's the point of spending your time in here? What's the point of paying the money to be here? What's the point of investing all of this in being here? You could just go out and use AI. Also understand that it's not always right. I've had this experience many times where I've asked it to maybe verify a calculation, some payroll problem, and it's wrong. It gives me the wrong answer. It puts in some factor that isn't even part of the equation. So just be aware that it's not going to be perfect. So like I said, use it. I think the best way for students to use it, a useful idea to use it, is maybe at the end of a chapter, copy information into it. Like maybe you've taken some notes, copy those notes into ChatGPT or whatever system you're using, and have it make a quiz for you based on the notes that you've put in. And that's a great way for you to review then everything that you've done for the class, or for that chapter, right? So to kind of quiz yourself on the material, that would be a great way to use it. So I'm not opposed to you using it. I do not want you using it just to generate answers, because you're cheating yourself, first off, but also because there's a good chance that it's not going to be right. Let's see. What else do I want to say? Nothing. Questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got here. So here's our modules. I just learned, we had our faculty development day on Monday, and one of the sessions that I went to, the professor said that students don't really go to modules. Is that true? Do you go into the modules? She said that all the students do is go to the to-do list. That like at the beginning of, so if you go to your home page, I'll view it as a student, it'll bring up. So you got a to-do list here that all students will do is go to their to-do list, that they won't actually go to the modules. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I put a lot of stuff in modules that's not on the to-do list. So make sure you go to the modules, because there's stuff there that is quite useful. All right, so I'm going to go through, these are all links to our textbook and the publisher's material. I'll go through that in just a minute. What I want to do first, though, this schedule at a glance. This is just a summary of everything that we're going to do every day of the semester. So this might be helpful for you if you wanted to print it out or just save it somewhere, or just reference it, just to see, okay, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about on this particular day? Every day also, I put together an agenda that I go through at the beginning of every class. I'm not going to do that today because it's just a kind of an overview day. But I put together an agenda that then I post for you to access so that you would be able to go back and say, what did we do on August 26th? Oh, look, this is what we did on August 26th. Okay, so, but this is kind of an overview of everything for every day. So your first set of assignments, and you say, I've got it, if there's an assignment due, it's highlighted. So your first set of assignments are going to be due on August 28th, which is a week from today, due at 11:55 p.m. And these are the things that I want you to do. So the main thing, so at a lot of this stuff, we're already kind of doing it. So we reviewed the syllabus, course time commitment. You want to take a look at that. Cengage introductory activities. So that's one of the things that you're going to do on your time, and it's going to be due by next Thursday night. This means you're going to have to get access to Cengage. Okay, and like I said, we'll go through that a little bit in a little bit here. And then there's an extra credit quiz, which is based on the syllabus as well. But so there's your first set of assignments. Chapter 1 is due a week later. Chapter 1 is pretty small as far as workload goes, like I mentioned that. So I just give you one extra week to get that chapter 1 completed. And then after that, it's pretty much every 2 weeks we'll have assignments due. Thursdays, 11:55. So chapter 2 is going to be due 2 weeks later, September 18th. Chapter 3, 2 weeks later, October 9th. October 9th is also going to be when we have our midterm in class. And we will review before we have the midterm. So the class period before, we'll do some midterm review. So to give you an idea of what to expect. So the other thing that I wanted to point out on this schedule, you will see you've got several things due on the very last day of class. So in class, our very last day is when we're going to have that final exam, that mini exam that I told you about. It's also going to be when your final project is due. It's also going to be when your final chapter assignments are due. It's a lot that's due right on the last day. Okay? I just wanted to give you a heads up about that because I don't want it to come, and I'll mention it again, obviously, as we get closer and into the semester. It's something that you'll have to plan for. So you don't want to be waiting until the last minute to do all of that stuff. Because after the last day, there is no other day for you to hand in the stuff. So just wanted to make you aware of all of that. Let's see. PowerPoint slides. I do follow the PowerPoint slides for a lot of my lectures. There's other stuff that we do as well. But if you want to download the PowerPoint slides, they're all there, listed in one spot for you. Whiteboard images. So what I've done over the years, and there's not as many for this class as there is for income tax, but if I put something up on the whiteboard, write something up on the whiteboard, and I think it might be particularly helpful for everybody to remember, I'll take a picture of it and put it on this page, which is just my Dropbox that you have access to. So it's just something that maybe it was particularly particularly helpful for explaining a concept. Something like, let's see, different federal income tax withholding methods. There are different methods for calculating withholding. Some of them, we had a completely different regime before 2019 than we did 2020 and after. And so this is just a chart that I put together that tells you, kind of summarizes what the differences are between those different methods and what kind of information you need in order to do the calculations properly. Things like that. So I may add to those as we go through the semester if there's something that is just particularly magnificent that I write up on the board that's just brilliant. I may take a picture of it and put it up there. That's a joke, by the way. Feel free to laugh. Academic Achievement Center. So Ankeny every campus has an academic achievement center if you need some additional help. You can just link on this and it tells you what the hours are if you want in person. I think they also do it virtually and by email as well. What I have found is a lot of times the people at the Academic Achievement Center, they're really good at financial accounting stuff, not so good at tax stuff. So I'm not discouraging you from going there. A lot of you are probably also taking Principles of Accounting or other accounting classes where they can certainly help you out. And there may be somebody there staffing it that does know something about payroll tax. But the feedback that I've gotten from students is, hey, I went to the Academic Achievement Center and they really didn't know anything about how to do this calculation. So I'm just kind of giving you a heads up. I'm, again, not saying don't use it, but the link is there to the hours, the different campuses and everything. There's also this other called BrainFuse tutoring, which is virtual. I think you just have to put it in here. That DMAC partners with. So this is just a completely different company. So they've got tutors as well, all times of the day. Also, you've got my office hours, you've got my email address, all that jazz. All right. Come on. All right, let's take a look at Cengage. Hopefully this link works. It didn't work on the lab. There we go. All right, so let me get to the intro. Show this, what it looks like for you. Okay, so this is what Cengage looks like, and you just click on the assignment that you're working on through Canvas. You can also enter it, once you get set up on Cengage, you can go directly to Cengage if you want, or you can go through Canvas, whichever way makes the most sense for you. This is what our first assignment, the introductory assignments. These are the assignments, the things that you have to do by next Thursday at 11:55 p.m. This first assignment consists of some review of accounting concepts. Who has taken accounting or is currently taking accounting? Hands all the way up. Let's see. I just want to see. So about half of you either have taken it or are currently taking it. That's principles or fundamentals of bookkeeping. Okay. So many of you will learn about financial accounting as we go through this class as well. And that will be helpful to you because there are certain concepts that overlap. And in fact, chapter 6 of our textbook is devoted entirely to taking all of the payroll information that we've learned and integrating it into the financial accounting system. So the things that you learn in financial accounting, the debits and credits, the different accounts, the accounting equation, all of that stuff will come in very handy to you if you're taking that at the same time or have taken it. But to start out, they give you a little bit of an introduction to accounting. So how this works is they want you to watch the video, Introduction to Accounting, and then answer the questions once you've watched the video. Okay, so super.
Accounting can be both specific and broad in scope. It encompasses such a wide variety of concepts that students are rather surprised when they begin taking.
So just a video for you to watch. If you need the transcript, it's there. And it will just open up new pages for you. So you can go back to the original one. So you watch the video, and then you'll answer all the questions here. And you're going to do this for each of the questions. They've got videos for you to watch, and then they want you to answer questions based on those videos that you have watched. So, success strategies for introductory accounting. So, again, another video that you'll watch, and then you'll answer the questions. Debits and credits. Gets a little bit more specific about accounting. So you'll watch the video about what is a debit, what is a credit, and then you'll answer the questions that are listed there. And then we get into some math review. So it maybe you're really good at math. Maybe it's been a while since you've taken a math class. Maybe you weren't so good at math. We do use a lot of math. And so in order to prepare for the type of math that we're going to use, there is a review of math concepts. Now, this is not high-level trigonometry or anything like that. This is basic business math, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, converting decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals, that sort of thing. But if it's been a while since you've had math and you're answering these questions and you can't remember it, well, there are videos that will help you. So if you need a refresher, a reminder on how these math concepts work, so here, like decimals and rounding, percentage operations, all of it's under the Show Me How. So these are all videos that will help you to remind you how to do that. Okay? So that is, I don't know what this one, Excel Online. We're not really using, you may want to use Excel in fact, I've had students that have created, if you're really good with Excel, this is a great class to use those skills in. I've had students that have created some rather complex spreadsheets for themselves that have helped them with some of the problems. Now again, I don't know if you've heard of the phrase garbage in, garbage out, but if you don't know the concepts well and you create yourself an Excel spreadsheet, you may have incorrect inputs into that spreadsheet. So you want to make sure you understand the concepts before you create a spreadsheet. But I have had students that have created spreadsheets that have helped them out in the class. So, but we don't really use Excel. Like I don't have any assignments where you have to turn in an Excel spreadsheet or anything like that. So that's your first homework assignment and again, like I said, it's due, I guess I can't look at it as you would see it right now. That is due next week, next Thursday at 11:55 p.m. Don't start it at 11 p.m. In addition to those links that I showed you in Canvas, let me see if I can make this bigger. You can also link to the textbook here. And in fact, in this version of the textbook, if you are somebody that likes to listen to the text being read, you can do that. Let's see.
Chapter Introduction. Learning objectives. After studying this chapter, you should be able to 1. Identify the various small data.
I don't know that you can speed it up is the only problem. If you're one of those people, like I'm one of those people that I listen to podcasts and I put it on 1.5. I don't think it speeds up though. But that's something that you can do. You can make the font bigger. I don't know if you can highlight it all. But, and then there's that. So again, I got there by, no. How did I get there? By going to Study Tools. Here. All right. Let me go back. You can also get there. So that's, I got there by this link. If you need technical support with Cengage, there's a link there. I don't know what this does. You can fool around with it if you want, see what it is. And then this is just a direct link to the textbook as well. So your intro module, which I showed you on that schedule at a glance, all of these things that are due by August 28th. The things that, so you'll want to review all of this stuff There's information for how to set up Cengage, but what I want to do is allow you some time in class, because I know I had a lot of students in the last section that were having some issues with, well, they weren't issues, they just didn't know how to enter the right information to get them signed up for Cengage. So I want to give you some time to do that so that I can answer some questions. But there are videos here that will help you as well with setting that up. There's our textbook, which I showed you. Syllabus, we already went through that. So this is actually, well, I mean, this is mostly for the online students, but it does still apply for in-class. Instead of watching the lecture videos, though, that's in-class time, 3 hours. But you should expect, this other time per week for each class, because it's a 3-credit class. That's the anticipated time that you would spend. Classroom conduct, be prepared, be punctual in completing your requirements. Obviously, act professionally, respond respectfully. I don't usually have any issues with that with accounting students for some reason. All right. So that's your intro module. Questions? I can give you a quick overview of the chapters that we do here. So the first chapter, I'm going to get to the textbook actually here so I can show you. I guess it's already open. Okay, so we have 7 chapters. The last chapter is the payroll project. First chapter is our overview chapter, where we're going to talk about, we're kind of going to do an overview of the whole textbook for one, but we're going to go through a bunch of different laws. This is where I said it's kind of dry, and it could get a little bit boring, but bear with me. Because these are all laws, federal laws that affect payroll. And everything that we do in this class is from the employer's perspective. Many of you, I'm sure, have been employees or are currently employees. Who's employed or has been employed? Received a W-2. See, okay, so most of you know what it's like from the employee's perspective. Now we're going to look at things from the employer's perspective. What does it take for the employer to put all of that together? What kind of rules do they have to follow in order to do it properly? So we've got to get a background of the laws that apply to payroll, and that's what we're going to do in Chapter 1. These are all laws that they can kind of be categorized a couple of different ways. So we've got our fair employment laws, and these are laws that ensure that employees aren't discriminated against. These are anti-discrimination laws, and they are just federal laws. There are also state laws that cover these, depending upon the state that you're in. So we're going to go through some of those fair employment laws, and then other types of employment laws that pertain to specific groups of people and requirements that employers have and have to follow. Things like Immigration Control and Reform Act, things like the Family Medical Leave Act, things like Obamacare, that sort of stuff. So we're going to look at those. And then we're also going to look at some specific laws, where are they? Pertaining to, well, this is a big one, the Fair Labor Standards Act. This is a law that we're going to focus, we do an overview of it in Chapter 1, but we get into more detail on it in Chapter 2. This is a very important law with regard to payroll, the Fair Labor Standards Act. Federal Insurance Contributions Act, which stands for FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare, which all of you who are employees or have been employees are familiar with FICA. Who is FICA and why are they taking all my money? So we're going to go into what that is and how that is calculated. Income tax withholding laws as well. Those are our federal income tax withholding. We're also going to talk about Iowa, how Iowa, the laws that pertain to Iowa with regard to withholding. One, and you're probably, those of you who are employees are probably familiar with FICA, and you're probably familiar with income tax withholding. You may not be as familiar with unemployment taxes, though, because unemployment taxes are only applied to employers. Employees don't pay unemployment taxes in most cases. So we're going to go in and talk about that. And then we get to, then we're also going to talk about some different record-keeping requirements of these laws. So this is Chapter 1, talking about getting an overview of all of those laws. The other chapters that we're going to look at, Chapter 2, I don't even need to go into the other chapters because it's right here. Chapter 2 is more detailed information about the Fair Labor Standards Act and how to calculate gross payroll. Gross payroll, total payroll before any amounts have been withheld. Chapter 3, we're going to talk about FICA, Social Security tax and Medicare tax. How do we calculate it? How do we withhold it? How do we then send those funds off to the IRS? Income tax withholding. How do we calculate federal income tax holding? How do we calculate state income tax withholding? How do we send that money off to the proper authorities? Unemployment taxes, Chapter 5. We're going to talk about calculation of unemployment taxes. Chapter 6 is where we integrate all of this into the financial accounting system. Chapter 7 is your final project where you put it all together and you do it. All of it. You're going to do all of the pieces of it in each of these chapters, but the last chapter you're going to do it all together. Okay? That's kind of an overview then of the book and of the semester. Any questions? Have I scared you off? No? Just bear with me through the first chapter, please. It does get more fun with the calculations. All right. So what I want to do is try and help you guys